I now call the July 29, 2021 Board of Commissioners work session to order. I'm going to call on CHINS, C-H-I-N-S, Team Coordinator Linda Blanchard to present the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistant Grant that we've been so lucky to get for many years.
Yes, we have. Right? Hi, I'm Linda Blanchard. I work, move this down, but I can't see you. I work with juvenile court, and as Ms. Morgan said, I am the CHINS coordinator, the Children Native Service Coordinator. And every year I apply for the Edward Byrne Memorial, did I say that right? Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistant Grant Program. And this year I am applying for money for psychological evaluations for children from juvenile court that are involved in juvenile court and counseling for children that are involved in juvenile court. Sometimes the kids, either they don't have insurance or it doesn't pay for everything, they want more sessions, or if they do have insurance, it doesn't cover certain things. So this grant fills in the gaps of those two things. We've done this before, like 2 years ago, I think maybe I did this, and it just helps. The psychologicals are very expensive. So it helps a ton for Judge Palmer to say, okay, look, I want psychologicals. It expands who we can give a psychological to. So that's what I'm applying for this year. Does anybody have any questions? No? Okay. All righty. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
I'm now going to call on our Finance Director, Alicia Searcy, to present our financial update for the month ending of May 2021.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good afternoon.
For May, we ended up with $59,868,000 in revenue, and so that put us about $4 million past our budgeted revenue amount. A good portion of that was sales tax and TVAT. We're amazingly enough about $5 million ahead of May 2020 revenue, and I think we've all talked about the fact that even though COVID was supposed to not be that good of a year financially, it surpassed what I would have even budgeted probably under normal circumstances, and based on the fact that we thought we would see downturns in sales tax and TVAT, we didn't experience either one. So it's been a good year so far. Expenditures ended in May for the year at $49,270,000. That's 88.6% of our budget. And we, I think, about 93% through the year. So expenditures are still running behind budget. Some of that's due to the court system not coming back in, and all of our departments are running in line with budget. So everything's going well there. Our fund balance continues to increase year over year, as does our cash. And I think most of y'all know this is the time of the year where we're spending more than we're bringing in. So our cash balances are going down about $2.5 million a month until we rotate around to October when we see that insurance premium tax. So that's the highlights. Anybody got any questions?
I know that we had been concerned, or I had been concerned about the TAVT tax. You look at a lot of the dealerships and their lots are empty. I will say across the board, I have seen that from all the manufacturers, toward middle end of this month, they all kind of were getting a few vehicles in. August is expected to be a decent month to get more vehicles in, as they've had some chips available, and not all of the vehicles require the chips. I think those are going to get sold, and that's what we want, but I see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel that we were getting worried that, things were running out to actually sell. So it's good to see across the board those manufacturers able to start supplying to some of the different lots. Still not obviously where we need to be, and if it will, affect us as much as it did last time as far as local businesses and that kind of thing. So I just throw out that precaution. It seems like a never-ending cycle of variants that might come along. So.
Yeah, I think we've still got a battle ahead of us as far as that's concerned.
Yeah.
The department heads are watching their budgets. I mean, you can see if you look at the expense side of our statements that they're all falling in line. And So
Yeah.
kudos to them for doing a good job of managing what they have to work with.
Yeah, right. Yep.
Okay, we'll now go ahead and move into the review and discussion of items for our meeting next Tuesday. As always, in an effort to be courteous to the public and staff as well as ourselves, I'd like to utilize the consent agenda for our BOC meeting. So after each one of these agenda items, I will ask if you are comfortable with putting it on a consent. So we'll start first with, under the financial session, the ad valorem tax collection service. And we have our attorney, Stacy Blackman, here. And I think Vicki was going to try, Vicki Beard, the tax commissioner, was going to try to, oh, there she is, hidden. Welcome, Vicki. Thank you.
Okay. Well, this is just our intergovernmental.
Question for our tax commissioner or our attorney on the document. Are you okay with putting this on a consent agenda for Tuesday?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you both. Okay, Stacy, I'm also going to have you present the next item, 10.2, the broadband grant, which is a resolution to participate in the broadband infrastructure program and authorize match contributions towards the grant. We also have Tim Martin here with Carroll EMC and Kyle Williamson with St. Global, if there's any further questions or...
Sounds good. Thank you, Chairman, Commissioners. I think you saw yesterday an email with an updated proposed resolution to delegate authority to the Development Authority to participate in the NTIA broadband infrastructure program, or in the alternative, the Georgia OPB program, the broadband programs. As you know, the federal and state governments have made funds available, and the county or the Development Authority would have to be the applicant for these grant opportunities and work with the local provider. So this proposed resolution would select Dovetail Communications, also known as St. Global, who's also working with Carroll EMC on a broadband project, and it would also authorize, if you approve, up to 10% of the grant funds available with a max of $2.2 million. So the maximum grant that they're applying for in Carroll County is $22 million approximately, and it would authorize the Development Authority on the county's behalf to file for the application for the grants with a few other counties in our region. So if you have any questions, let me know.
Ms. Blackman, I don't know if this is a question for you or Mr. Martin. Is there anything in the application process that would prevent us from contacting or trying to work with the school systems to see if they would be willing to assist in some manner with the 10% match?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if you know that. Do you want to come join me and speak into the microphone, Mr. Martin?
Thank you, Commissioners.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so the school board wouldn't qualify as a political subdivision. It would have to be the county or the county development authority. But, I mean, it wouldn't prohibit the county from reaching out to the school board to see if they'd be willing to, assist. But it would be outside the purview of this agreement.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So nothing that you see legally that we could try to work with them, it would be on our end, so to speak?
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Couple, while you're there, Tim, I appreciate speaking with Jay and, of course, with you earlier about this, but just so we can have the numbers in front of us, this particular grant would provide the opportunity for coverage to about, is it 2,600 households, or?
It's almost 2,400.
Almost 2,400,
Yes.
okay. And then someone had mentioned it would lay the groundwork for like another 4,000, or?
It's closer to, let's see, it's over 5,000 additional homes, so they'd build the infrastructure to be able to serve those homes, but they wouldn't be served by the grant. They would have to just pay for another way.
Yeah, okay. Well, I have spoken with numerous constituents and constituent groups and pastors and so on, and I have yet to get any negative feedback. For my district, it seems like it provides a very essential opportunity, and I just want to say thanks for continuing to do what you do to expand broadband capability. It's a dire need for those in my district that don't have other opportunities. So,
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. I mean, obviously the pandemic has just amplified the need. You know, somebody was mentioning, you know, what's going to happen with COVID. I mean, schools working from, you know, kids doing schoolwork from home and people working from home, and I mean, it just really amplified the need, but we knew the need was there. That's why Carroll EMC got involved with this years ago to really move the needle to help solve this problem, so I really appreciate that.
as well the agricultural industry.
Absolutely.
So it's
Everybody needs it. Yeah, farmers need it. You know, college students. How many college students came and lived at home? You know, and tried to do schoolwork. You know, so it's just, you're right. Absolutely.
Yeah. And when would you expect, like, work on this to begin and then be completed?
Yeah,
generally.
That's a very good question. So the application date is August 17th, and the awards are supposed to be starting to be made at the end of the year. And then it'll be up to the NTIA as to when the work can commence. You know, the Reconnect Grant that we got, the phase 1 part of our project, you know, we were awarded that. I don't know if you remember, but when Secretary Sonny Perdue came and the governor came and we had that big award ceremony, that was in June of last year. Well, June of this year, we finally got approval to move forward. But that didn't stop the work from being done. We've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes, doing the pre-work. But, you know, once the work is allowed to commence, you know, we're asking for it, well, the plan is for it to be done within 24 months.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep, just a comment sort of in line with what Ernie said. Being the parent of a high schooler and a 7th grader, obviously last year we figured out pretty quick that the little Verizon hotspot that's supposed to be high speed in Farmers High ain't high speed.
That's
okay.
right.
I mean, it is what it is. And with one having to do research papers and one having to do just her regular middle school work, that little 16, however many, whatever it was, that goes pretty quick, so you just go back to slow speed. And, you know, sort of like what Ernie said, maybe not having visited with them on this subject, but having heard conversation and had conversation with other parents that are in the same situation in rural Carroll County that don't have access, and, you know, maybe there are pockets that can get a charter or whatever,
Right.
and that's all well and good, but we don't have that option, and many people don't. And, you know, I know it's not going to happen next week, next month, or next year, but I'm all for getting it here as quick as we can, so thank you.
Well, thank you, Commissioner. And the good news is phase 1, the work is, you know, it's going to be starting, you know, like I said, the pre-work's being done right now, and the work as far as putting fiber on our poles should start in October. So we're really excited about that. We're going to be starting connecting people, you know, hopefully by the end of the year, or at least a bit first of next year. So,
you know, those excess poles that you have, you can just drop them in my house, be fine.
yeah, well, we do, you know, make those available. So if you really do have an interest, please contact our office. Okay.
Well, I know George and Tim, we all know what it's like to have those teenagers and college kids at home, but we also need to remember our Carroll County workforce, those that work for Carroll County government, as well as those that work in the workforce. A lot of them had to go home to be with their children and tried to work from home and didn't have the internet. So it's a lot bigger than just, you know, school homework.
No, it is.
I don't want to discount it all, but a lot of work in Carroll County had to be done from people's homes.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate our staff that did go home and still produced every day to take care of the citizens.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can say the same thing for Carroll EMC employees. We're able to send them home. In fact, a lot of them are still working from home right now, especially the ones that take calls. They're working from home and doing the best they can. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I appreciate those comments. And I'll be glad to answer any other questions if there's any other questions.
I wanted to comment also that I was asked by a few constituents, like, this isn't to ensure that Phase 1 is completed. This is in addition to Phase 1.
Absolutely. This is a in Carroll County, it'd be $22 million investment. And total would be $41 million with the 5 counties. So yeah, this is new, and it's based on availability of funds. Right now is a unique opportunity in time. The federal government and everybody has realized what the need is, and so we've got this, the America Rescue Plan money that's out there that, that's not only making the NTIA, I can't say it, the NTIA grant, which is the National Telecommunications and Information Administration. Yeah, but it's also the Georgia broadband grant. We're getting 2 bites of the apple if y'all approve this, but we'll go after the grant with the federal government, but also with the state of Georgia for, to try to bring this.
Okay.
So y'all want to wait until Tuesday?
I do.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I
All
have
right.
some comments.
Okay. You had some comments?
Not today.
Okay. All right, so this will wait till Tuesday. And Clint is going to reach out to the school board. Okay, 10.3, a financial audit with Rushton & Company. We then again have Stacy Blackman, the county attorney.
This is the same engagement letter that we've used in the past with our auditors, Rushton & Company, with the same fee that they've used in the past as well. So there are no changes. So that's for your approval.
Any questions for Stacy? Are you good with putting this on a consent agenda?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. All right, 10.4, I'm going to call on our EMA planner and our grant writer, Amy Goolsby, to present the law enforcement training grant for the sheriff's office.
Good afternoon. This was funding set aside by the governor's office in the state budget for law enforcement training. It's fully funded with no match. It's going to upgrade the current simulator at the training center for the sheriff's office. It'll provide both use of force training and de-escalation training. And they're asking to use Laser Shot is the only company that makes this type of training simulator. So.
Okay, there's 3 documents for her, the PDF and the award document and the special conditions. Any further questions for Amy?
So the way I understand it, just to be sure, so this is a grant application,
Yes.
and then it's spending the grant.
Yes, the first part is the award package, and then selecting the vendor.
Yeah. Okay.
And as you stated, there's no match
There's no
required.
match. It's fully funded.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Y'all good with putting that on consent? Okay. 10.5, well, that was, Amy, that was also a Laser Shot Solutions. That, I was just saying, you mentioned that earlier, that one is in this, you don't need to come back and talk about this one.
No, that's the vendor.
Okay, so 10.4 and 10.5, she just spoke about. One was the agreement and the other one's the vendor, which she just said was only one vendor. Any questions on that part? Okay, are y'all good with putting 10.5 also on consent? Okay, great, thank you. All right, we're going to move into the business session, which is 11.1, which is an appointment to the Region 6 Behavioral Health and Development Disabilities Board, and I had sent y'all an email about Sonia Dickerson, because she does have a special needs child, and she would make a great representative for us. So if anybody that doesn't have another nomination at this point, you good with putting that on the consent?
Yes.
Okay. 11.2 is also an appointment to the Three Rivers Regional Commission Board of Directors. Kevin Hempel's name was also nominated. If anyone else has another nomination at this point, are you okay with putting it on consent?
Yeah.
Great, thank you. 11.3, appointment to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Jane Simpson would be my nominee for my at-large appointment. And if y'all are okay with that, I'll put that on consent. Okay, great, thank you. All right, Amy, I'm going to call you back for 11.4, the Hazard Mitigation Plan.
Yes, in order to receive federal mitigation funds, we have to have adopted hazard mitigation plan. This is a plan that identifies hazards in the county and comes up with ways to mitigate those. This is like the third update of this plan that I've worked on since I had been with the EMA. We do it in coordination with the cities. It's been approved by FEMA and adopted by all 8 municipalities. So now we're just asking for the BOC to adopt it.
If y'all remember, I think Stacy or I sent this to you in June because it's 243 pages. Does anybody have any questions for Amy on this one? Are y'all okay with putting this on a consent agenda?
Only she'll read the whole thing during the meeting. I just want to be clear on what I'm voting.
How long do you want to be here on Tuesday? Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
We're now going to move into 11.5. I'm going to call Stacy Blackman back. She's got several things right here, the district attorney contract 11.5 and the public defender contract 11.6.
Thank you. The first we have is the district attorney's contract. The county funds certain positions in the district attorney's office, and there's a statute that allows those employees to get the same benefits as state employees, as long as we sign this agreement. And so this is the agreement that has been signed for many years. It's the state's form. And we have the ability to delegate to the district attorney, Herb Cranford, the authorization to sign this contract, but we wanted to make sure that because this contract covers the entire 5-county circuit, that our obligations are limited to the amount approved in your budget each year, and they were agreeable to that provision.
So, and it's $1,098,000, is that, I think that's the entire thing.
Right. That's
Yeah.
our,
Okay.
I think that might be the circuit-wide amount, but Ms. Searcy has confirmed the amount for the county is correct for our positions.
Okay.
And the district attorney has approved this form as well.
You okay with putting that on a consent agenda?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, we'll do the public defender contract, 11.6, Stacy.
Okay. And this is another annual contract that's entered into by the county. It has the provisions for the amount that you've already approved in last year's budget, and it has the obligations of the services that the public defender's office provides. So the numbers have been confirmed by the finance office, and it's the standard contract that has been used for many years.
Okay, are y'all okay with putting this on a consent agenda? Okay, great,
Yes.
thank you. Okay, we have 11.7, the library MOU, and Stacy's going to present it, as well as thankful to have Clint here, having served on the library board, to, he's made some adjustments to help us make it even a better agreement.
Yes, thank you. This, I think I have at your places the latest draft. That's a red line to include Commissioner Chance's suggestions, which were very good to this draft. And it's a simple MOU with the library system to specify that that the amount that you all have approved in your budget of $250,000, how it will be spent and how it's allocated amongst the several facilities that the library system has in our county. And then what has been changed, and Commissioner Chance, I don't know if you want to explain that part about the hours of operation
Sure.
maintained.
So I had spoken with Mr. Hauser, who's the new director for WGRLS. We have a county library board that we appoint that also works in conjunction with the regional library system, which has fiduciary responsibility for the entire system. As you all know, we have geographically different areas in the county, so some are more populated, some may have different staffing issues, some may have different levels of support from their municipalities. So I think they were concerned about some of the language in there stating that essentially the hours or services had to remain the same as the previous year, and things do adjust based off of those reasons that I just mentioned. So I think from a county perspective, what we want to do is protect our citizens to ensure right now all of our facilities located that are operating in Carroll County are all essentially fully operational, meaning that they meet the highest standard of Georgia Public Library Services standard to be a fully functional facility. What we don't want to happen is the amount of hours, and currently that threshold is 30 hours per week. We don't want that to lower into a lower classification as the standard is presented by GPLS, because then that would probably affect our constituents' ability to receive services and materials that they may need. So we're giving them the flexibility that they need to adjust hours, but we're also holding the regional system to a standard that they understand that we expect all of our libraries to maintain that minimum threshold. So that language is going to be respected in the document being approved.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Would that, and Stephen, good to meet with you the other week. Maybe this is a question for you, I don't know. But of course, Whitesburg Library is in my district, and that's great, the minimum hours and so on. I know because of the limited amount of funding that Whitesburg Library receives, not to say they get any less per capita than anyone else, but they do have to make up funds on their own. They have some situations with the local government authority there and so on that does not kick in funds. And so what I'm wondering is, with these 30 hours, sometimes they've had to struggle a lot, and the group, the Friends of the Library, has had to actually kick in funding to maintain the library and ensure that it is open. So with minimum hours now part of the MOU, would that, are those minimum hours going to be hard for Whitesburg Library to meet? Because I don't want Whitesburg Library to not get the funding. They're having a hard enough time already.
Mr. Hauser, thank you for being in the audience today to answer the questions. So we have the director of the regional system is who Ernie was addressing. For those that are watching us, you can't see who's in the audience, but thank you for being here today to answer these questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Commissioners, and appreciate Ms. Blackman's work to get the MOU drafted. We don't foresee any issues with Whitesburg as long as the level of current funding is maintained. That's part of the interest in us as the regional system having an MOU with all our funding agencies. We do have 24 local funding agencies that we deal with, so it's very good to have that funding responsibility and service responsibility on our part clarified.
Okay, good. And any endeavors that you need from me to work with the city and so on, I'd be glad to help with that, the Whitesburg City.
Appreciate it.
Government. Yeah.
I'll be talking to you, definitely.
Yeah. I feel for them because they do so much outside of our funding in order to maintain things, and that really, that library operates there as a community resource center, not just a library. So, and speaking of internet, I mean, we've talked before, and that provides a lot of internet for the school children there, as well as the police station and so on. They park outside there, and so they can use the internet. So it's a integral part of the city structure there. So.
Yes, thank you, and that's nice to hear. We do love the level of commitment and appreciation and passion that's in the Whitesburg community.
Okay. I do have a couple specific funding questions. This $250,000, it's been, I noticed it in last year's budget and so on. Of course, I just came on last year, I think, unless I'm missing memory of time. But the $250,000 is that going to be reviewed and is that going to be updated? And the other question is, as part of the state university system, how are the state funds faring toward the West Georgia Regional Library System? Are they cutting state funding, or what's going on there from the state?
We had rather large cuts last year when they were anticipating reduced revenues for the pandemic. They restored those when the revenues did not decline. So overall, we're good. We're seeing steady state funding on both operations and materials.
Okay. Do we review and come up with this, like $250,000 every 3 years or something? I mean, what is our process?
Well, we went through the budget process. If you remember, we started on it in February. I brought y'all in for a work retreat, then we did another work retreat. So at any time, if any of you want to make an adjustment to the budget, you are more than welcome to. You just got to think about where you're going to fund it from or take from. I mean, so if our revenues are really good, then we can increase things. So yes, we went through this whole process last year and the year before, asking for input on every line item. If y'all, I mean, I don't know how you could forget 8 hours of line item by line item. Do y'all remember those?
And to add to that, Commissioner Reynolds, you know, the $250,000, of course, long before I was on this particular board, has been reviewed by the commission and has been updated. We depend heavily on our appointees on the Carroll County Library Board, who then, you know, work and try to make recommendations to come up with an internal formula. And from my perspective, I don't want to take that away from them, because I feel like they're the boots on the ground closest to the scene, so to speak. And so I think they need to have the flexibility as best that they can. Even if they ask us, that doesn't mean that we fund it. But what I'm saying is, I think it's a formula that they've got into place and has been working well. I know my time on the regional board, there was not as much definition, if you will, on how the money was split. Now there's more of a formula. Whether you completely agree with the formula or not, it has a factual basis behind it that the board works with. Here again, our county board and the regional board, which is also comprised of Carroll County representatives. So to try to answer your questions, I think on both sides of the aisle, I mean, yes, we can always be willing to look at it on our end, but I think the system we have in place is working, and, you know, their current board is, including our appointees, are making this number work. So I feel comfortable with the amount.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Yeah, I just wanted to understand that, so, good.
Appreciate it, Commissioner Reynolds, thank you.
Yeah.
You good with putting this on consent? Yes. Great, thank you very much. Thank you, Stephen, for coming. All right, we have 11.8 of driveway installation ordinance. I'm going to have Charles Pope with Public Works and Stacy Blackman still.
Stacy, we're going to take over. Thank you, Chairman, Board of Commissioners. What we're proposing to y'all is to amend our ordinance and change the way the installation of driveways now. What we do now, the applicant comes in and fills out the application, and we go out to the site, and then we check the site distance, the size of pipe, and determine the material they're going to need. So we come back and figure all that up, and then we give it to the applicant, and then they give us a check. We don't want cash, but they give us a check, and then we install the driveway, and just for material only. And what we've done, we reached out to Harrison, Douglas, Coweta, Fayette, Heard, all of the surrounding counties. They have done it in the past, but they have quit because of the manpower and the amount of driveways they're installing now. Since January 1 of 2020, we have installed 202 driveways, pipe installations, and we have 7 right now that people has paid for that we hadn't installed. So what we're proposing to y'all, we got a new application, and we want to propose a $50 application fee. They would come in and pay their $50, do the application fee, and then we would do the same thing. We'd go to the site distance, pipe size, and everything, and then we would tell them what they have to do. And then either the property owner or the builder would install the pipe, and they would get a permit from us to hang up at the site. A permit from Public Works to hang up, and once the driveway is installed, then we would go back and inspect it, make sure it's to our specs, and then we'll sign off of it and then it would be completed.
I guess that permitting and review process, when I first found out about this potential, I'm like, oh wow, are we going to run into problems 6 years from now when things aren't properly installed or the right size pipe is not used, and then we're going to have flooding in the roads and so on down the road, no pun intended. But with that review process, I guess we are still on top of what's being done. It's just that we're not physically doing it.
That's correct. We're still determining what size pipe goes in and how they do it. but we're not installing it. They're doing it. They're just paying the $50 application fee and a minimum of 2 trips out there to make sure it's right and then to go back and sign off on it. Yes, sir, that's correct.
And if it's not right,
Yeah.
Is $50 enough for 2 trips?
That's just a number we come up with. It's better than nothing, and we feel like that would take care of it. For now, if y'all want to do more, then, and I'd like to thank Stacy. We put several hours into this. Danny and Commissioner Chance come by, and so we put several hours into trying to make sure we get it right the first time.
And you don't need to work to stay busy.
Yeah. Mr. Pope, one thing that I like about the review process is when our staff goes out to the site originally, it's not only a verbal communication, but it is written in writing what the applicant has to do to meet our standards, and then the applicant actually has to sign at that point that they have officially received that and they understand what is in writing, so there's no ambiguity at the end forcing someone to try to do something they hadn't met a standard. It's kind of holding everyone accountable. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes, sir. All that's on the application fee. So.
The only thing, I think we're a little light on the 2-trip deal. I mean, I really do, as far as,
Yeah.
but if you feel like we can do that.
Well, yeah, we'll go out one time to inspect the site and then tell them what they have to do. And of course, we ride most of the roads every day anyhow, so, we'll possibly be going by there. And a lot of this, of course, Commissioner Lee was in your district on the north side.
Right.
So actually, there was 118 of them on the north side of the county, which is north of 166. And then Danny's side, he had 84. So there's more building going on to the north.
Yeah, everybody wants to be in my district. I hear there's a good commissioner there.
Yeah.
Well, it depends if they got broadband, doesn't it?
Not really. They'd rather have fire service.
Any questions, any further questions?
one of the main things I see as I travel here and there, I'm just this way, forgive me, I look at stuff and critique it right away, but I see driveway culverts that are not installed deep enough, so they're sitting up, which means whoever put it in didn't take the time an effort to get the pipe low enough so it would properly drain the whatever. And so, scenario, if we go out the second time and we see this is not installed properly, I'm just being devil's advocate here, do we have the proper enforcement authority, or can we expect that since a private contractor would have been involved? We're not directly in contact with them, we're in contact with the homeowner or the builder or whoever. So can we finagle through the system and get things corrected if we do have some problems?
Yeah, I think so. We're going to work that out on site on the first visit.
Okay.
To make sure that happens. And sometimes in the case like that, we might have to lower the ditch further down or further up to get the driveway pipe deeper in some cases, like that has been done in the past.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And you may have noticed in the proposed ordinance, it would be subject to a fine if you don't get the proper permit or don't comply with the permit process, so go through codes enforcement. Hopefully that won't happen, but we do have that in this ordinance change.
Okay.
Well, it wouldn't be approved if it's not satisfactory to you.
That's
anyway.
correct, yes.
Be turned down.
Yes.
Okay.
Good with putting this on consent?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you, Charles. Thank you, Stacy. We now have 11.9. I'm going to call on the County Attorney Avery Jackson to present a resolution to amend the zoning ordinance. Now, this one and one other item that Avery's going to be presenting, I will not be putting these on consent agenda because we'll have to have a public hearing on Tuesday night, but we'll just take a moment to have you educate us and any questions.
Sounds good. Thank you. Madam Chair and Commissioners, you might remember last year about the same time, we amended the zoning ordinance to make some changes and clarifications. And at that time, we took out some language in the permitted section of the agricultural district, which said removing minerals and natural resources from the land. at that time, and we said we'd come back and revisit it for borrow pits because everybody had agreed we wanted borrow pits to be allowed in ag, but we wanted to work on how we wanted to define that. So now we're coming back to you with the proposed changes to clarify the ordinance and allow borrow pits as defined in the Georgia Surface Mining Act, as if they're under 1.1 acres, then they would be a permitted use in ag, and those types of borrow pits don't require a state permit. And if it is above 1.1 acres and requires a state permit, then that would be a conditional use in ag, and it would have to come before the Board of Commissioners to approve a conditional use for that purpose. And we will keep surface mining and rock quarries as a conditional use in industrial zoning district. That change was made last year. We will keep that in industrial zoning district as a conditional use. And surface mining in that section will also be defined as it's defined in the Georgia Surface Mining Act. And we'll have a public hearing on this at your regular meeting.
Any questions for Avery on this? Okay. So item 11.10 and 11.1111 is Janet Hyde, the county planner. I don't see Janet here right this moment. But the last item can't be on a consent agenda anyway. So let me flip back and make sure based on our agenda, 10.1 will be consent. 10.2 we will discuss and vote on Tuesday night, which is the broadband grant. 10.3, the financial audit is consent. 10.4, the law enforcement training grant is consent. 10.5, laser shot technology is consent. Under the business session, 11.1, appointments to the Regional 6 Behavior and Development Disabilities Planning Board. 11.2, appointment to Three Rivers Regional Commission. 11.3, appointment to the Planning and Zoning Commission will all be on consent. And then the 11.4 hazard mitigation plan that Amy presented to us will be on consent. 11.5, 11.6, which are both the district attorney grant and the public defender grant, will be on consent. 11.7, the library MOU will be on consent. And 11.8, driveway installation will be on a consent. So that will just leave us, we'll have planning and zoning, and we will have the broadband, and we will have the 2 public hearings and a presentation on the readoption of the Carroll County official zoning map. Does that work for everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any further questions